In this video I'll show you how you can use the Figaf tool to automate PI to CPI migrations, and especially when we talk about EDI message mappings. We created the first experiment about getting this to work. There is obviously a road that we need to figure out how to deal with, but it is not something we have not tried or will not be possible to do. So let's get started. So why I think it makes sense to migrate the message mapping is it will speed up your migration journey. You know how to use this message mapping and use the technology, so you do not need to re-engineer and figure out how this works. And as I would imagine, you already right now have few changes on these documents. So it's not something that is going to be changing rapidly as you move along. But it is about making the migration faster. That is the key aspect here. And I guess more reliable, because if you're reusing existing content, you are always doing the same thing as before. The first thing is we have a PI message mapping. This is coming from the standard P2P template. This is the one that we have been trying out when we are working with these scenarios. One of the challenges for normal migrations is that this contains user-defined functions, and you need to figure out how do we actually support this. And this is done using the Figaf tool, where we can go in and say, okay, let's migrate this. We will configure this. In the migration, we'll set up that it is this message mapping. It is these schemas, and then we have ways to use the group function libraries either as Groovy script or as function libraries. There is currently some limitations with both, and sometimes you would need to do some manual work, for at least for the first time when you are migrating the user-defined functions to Groovy. Currently, you would need to make small modifications to the process. You will need to remove the sender and change it to process direct. And you'll need to change the EDI XML and the send step, because they are not relevant in this case, because the message would be delivered to a different framework. And this is the EDI message processing. Then you need to set up the trading partner management, to get started. But let's see what this all looks like. So here we have the iFlow that we have migrated. You can see the message mapping, not much more. Currently this is using our exception handler process. It should not do that because the exception handling will be controlled by the framework as such. Then we need to go in and we need to create a trading partner, and for that to work, we would need to go in and create an EDI profile for these documents. And here I think you need to enable a lot of these message structures to be able to work with them. And then you can download the code for this. Next is you will need to create the partner as a trading partner. You have the identifiers that they have, you have the systems that they're using, how they are communicating. So this is what you normally be doing if you're not using the Figaf tool for this. Then we will create some trading partner agreements. This is more about for this type of document, which is the invoice on-premise. And I guess we will also be specifying that this is this message type, the message implementation guideline, to give the TPM some kind of an idea about what kind of message we have. Then we create the agreement, and this is the part that says for this we are using this partner profile as us, and here we have the recipient. We can specify the partner that it should be receiving, here the identifiers, and then in our structure here, the only thing we need to do different than normal is, instead of putting in message guidelines here saying that this is this EDI message conversion, we will just link it to our process direct, where we have this message mapping in, and this just makes the whole process a lot easier. Then in the Figaf tool, we can create some test cases. And here the test cases would currently be the one that goes into the EDI setup. Let's try this one. Here we can upload an IDOC that we want to be sending, and we can then send this to the flow. Currently we do not support the testing because this flow is going to span multiple different processes. So if you want to see what is actually going on here, you would look at the integration here. You will see that we have sent the IDOC, and this one is in trace because Figaf has added it. We can add the correlation ID here. We can see it is processing this invoice. We are adding some output details here. Some log about what's going on, I guess. The EDI message. And then at the end we would then have the trying to deliver the message. This is currently not working. We can also monitor this in the EDI setting. In here we can see this IDOC sent. We have some information about it, the IDOC control number, receiver, a sender identifier, receiver identifier, and the sender and receiver identifier. We can see when we received it, and we can see we are getting this IDOC, and then we are building this invoice or EDI message. We have already comparison of these EDIs, but we would need to build this into the process and being able to test these messages. That was the flow here. So this is the testing part. We can see that it is producing EDI messages. And then the last thing is, so these are the things and the gaps we have. Currently, we know that there's a difference between the PI B2B add-on schemas and the integration content advisor schemas. They're a little different. We have done changes of EDI structures and message mapping before between Seaburger and B2B, so it's not really that difficult to fix these things. It is something we would need to spend a few iterations on getting it right, and this is where we will be improving the tool on. We also need to consider if you're using some more advanced trading partner management functions, more than just header and receiver, and maybe a specification of what mapping you need. We will need to figure out, okay, so how can we actually deliver this without you needing to change all the code? And then we need to make sure that we can test this end to end, so you can actually ensure that you are testing this and it works smoothly. So you can start a free trial of Figaf and see how the migration tool works. It is obviously also capable of doing a lot of scenarios that is outside of the B2B scenarios, a lot of A2A, and there it is also able to improve the way you are migrating. But you can sign up for a free trial and get started with both the migration and the DevOps at figaf.com. I hope you liked this. If you did, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, and please share it with the people you find that will find this interesting. Thank you.